Okay, we're going to tie the Brooks Montana stone. This is normally tied with a gray peacock herl up around the thorax instead of a white one, but I used white in this so you could see it going on easier. With gray it doesn't stand out quite so much. It's not quite so garish looking. It suits better. We start this with the Biot, and I usually measure the Biot against the bend, against the gap, and I just make it a little longer than the gap. It's a 4 extra long shank, so you can't measure it on the shank, that's for sure. Just go ahead and trap this against the side of the hook and hold it in place while I wrap back to my ending point for the body, or the beginning point for the tail, whichever way you want to look at that. And then I just use the turn and look technique to turn, check and make sure the flare is okay, and then roll it over like this so that I can put the Biot on the other side. Check the length of that with a little roly-poly move and tie that Biot in. Watch that hook point. Yeah, it's still there. Then roll down, and it's not quite as flared as the other one. Put a little tweak on that, we'll straighten that out. Length seems to be about right. That's what I really am worried about right now. So I'll just go ahead and bind this down too. Then we'll trim that off. Now just roll this over. Again, using that rotary feature, just turn it to where you're going to tie something in. Turn and look at your tie-in point. And this is a medium weight copper wire. I use weight as a key on this fly. They want to get it right to the bottom, and so the heavier wire, all the better. And also makes the segmentation better. So there's the tails and the rib, and now we need to put the body material on here. The body material for this is just black yarn, wool yarn. This particular yarn is a 4-strand yarn, and it's a little heavy to put on, and so what I do is I get it to separate a little bit, and then just grab two pieces in each hand here, and then just draw it slowly apart, and it just unrolls. So you take the two that you split out and just attach them in and hold them right on top of the hook. So Biot tails on the side, the rib on the bottom, and the body material on the top. Now, having done that, we've got to put some lead wire on here. I'm going to start back on the body material. You got to start quite a ways back. It takes about 25 or 30 wraps of lead to do this fly properly. And this is 25 thousandths lead-free wire. This is about as close as I want to get to the eye, so now I'll start wrapping back. And I think that makes 26 wraps right there. Cut that off, just squeeze it with my thumbnail. Same thing up here, you can just pinch this stuff off. Flatten those tag ends down here. There. Now you got to build a ramp. You don't want those abrupt changes in diameter along the hook shank, and so if you just build a thread ramp going up onto it from the back here like this, it'll make it easier when you start winding the body material, and then you transfer to the front, build a ramp in front, and then we'll have to fill in that middle portion. So ramp in front's all built. We'll do this middle. And there you go. There's our underbody. All we need to do now is wrap the body. And I'm going to just do a whip finish knot here so that I can bring my cradle into play, and I don't have to worry about the thread slipping off the shank of the hook. Adjust that cradle out a little bit and hang that thread right over the cradle, and we can start wrapping this body. Then you start right here at the bend, wrap all the way to the eye, and then back to just about where we are right here, then back up again, and it'll help build a taper and make this pretty large in diameter. This is to imitate a big, robust stonefly. You might as well make it big with body material. Let's get up here like this, just come down off the edge of that and start wrapping back over itself. This wool really soaks up the water and holds the water during your cast, so it doesn't have to re-wet itself, if you will. Now I've wrapped back to here, and I'm going to stop right here and then start wrapping back towards the front. If you get any gaps or uneven spots, you can pick them up on the way back, wrapping this way. When you come to the front here and you start coming down off the edge, you got to be careful it doesn't slide like that. Back up and hold that back a little bit and wrap that. There we go. Tie this off, go in front, go behind, go in front, go behind again. That is pretty well bound down. That's not coming apart. I rotate the top so I can cut above the hook. Keep that rotary vise moving. You got to force yourself to turn these rotary vices and make sure that you use the rotary feature. Now I made 5 or 6 extra wraps of thread there, and as I counter wrap this rib, or wrapping in reverse is what we call the technique, as I counter wrap this rib, those extra wraps of thread that I made up there will unwrap. Just saves me bringing the cradle into play. And we're only going to wrap this this rib to the thorax. So we get up here to about this point, and this is about where we want to stop it. Now, I'll grab my thread here. All the extra wraps I made have unwrapped. I'll make a couple here just to smooth this up. Now make one wide wrap just reaching towards the back like that to get back to where I want to tie my ribbing material down. Make a pass behind the ribbon material, pass in front of it, another pass behind it, pass in front of it, and I'm pretty sure that's going to stay in place. One more for good measure, why not? All of those are right on top of the other. Now I'm just going to twist my wire here until it lets go. Hopefully it'll let go right down on the body where I want it to. No, of course not. It broke up above, but that's okay. I'll just push it down with my thumbnail. A couple wraps over it to make sure it stays in place. Then we can tie in the hackle material. There, that should hold that. Now we roll this over. Bring in our hackles. We use a grizzly and a brown hackle on this pattern. Here's my grizzly. And then this is the brown. It's more of a furnace with the black center. Trim up the tip so that we can tie it in. So there's my hackle with the sides stripped off. Bring this down all prepared and everything folded back, and I'll just trim off this tip. Tie this in right where I've been making these thread wraps. Then just wrap forward. Okay, we make a couple wraps here to smooth things up, and grab this hackle and see if we can get to wrapping here. I'm not using hackle pliers here. There's enough length, I think. You just make one wrap in place right here where the thorax starts, then angle sharply forward. Charles Brooks was pretty specific about this in his book. He wants you to just make one transition wrap to the front like this, and then to tie it off. And there's no collar up here in the front. I used to tie this quite a bit with a collar, and then I went back and was rereading his book, and he was pretty specific about not putting a collar, and hey, I bow to him as his pattern. So now I just tie it off up front here like this without the collar, and it seems to work just fine. So another wrap here to secure that, and then I'll cut this off above the hook. It's already to top. I don't need to rotate to top. And that pretty much does the hackle. Now we need to put some hurl, some ostrich hurl in here. And the way Brooks did it, he took the ostrich hurl and tied it in at the same time as the feather and wrapped it after the feathers were wrapped. But I like to incorporate a little rotary tying in here. So we're going to just grab this hurl up here at the front, and because the hurl is as fragile as it is, once we get it secure, I'm going to use the rope wrap technique. We roll the hook over here so that the thread and the hurl coming off at the same point. Make a couple wraps around the thread with the hurl. Rotate out to horizontal in line with the hook. It's important to be right in line with the hook to do this, and then twist up something of a rope and bring this back down, and then wrap this back through the hurl. The reinforced back through the hackle. The reinforced hurl secures this hackle and makes sure that this hackle doesn't get broken easily. When you're fighting a fish. And remember, I'm using white here, and it does really stand out a lot. What Charles Brooks calls for in his original pattern is gray hurl, but it kind of got lost against the black fly, for the videos. So I went ahead and I used white, but the gray does match up better. So you wrap to the rear and then wrap back to the front here and trim off the ends, and we just got to shape a head here, and you got a finished fly. This is a great pattern. It takes 10 or 11 minutes to tie it on the video here going slow, but once you get to tying these, you can crank these out in 7 or 8 minutes easily. And it's a heavily weighted fly. You do lose a few of them, but hey, it gets down where it's supposed to go, and it doesn't take a long time to tie. Once you get used to it, like I said, you just crank them out in 7 or 8 minutes. And it's a very effective pattern. Tying in a round like this is a good thing to do, I believe. So just make a few wraps, finish that off like that, and trim that. Again, remember, normally it would be gray hackle, gray ostrich hurl, not the white. And there you have it. Make sure you use hen hackle, so this is nice soft fiber up here so it moves real well. And take this baby out and catch yourself some fish. And there you have it, a Brooks Montana stone tied using rotary fly tying techniques.